We'll call the meeting to order. It's 7:02. Roll call. Is Robert on?
He is not.
He is not. Okay. Marina and Robert are not in attendance. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, mission statement. The Rural Area School District provides a quality education for all students that inspires continuous learning, positive relationships, curiosity, and compassion in an environment that welcomes diversity while developing respectful and responsible citizens. Spotlight on Education 2021 Academic and Career Plan. Looks like we have Jessica, Jenny, and Heidi this evening. Is there an order in which you want to present?
Jessica's going to talk first, but where would you like me to stand?
Probably up by
Right
that
here.
chair.
Okay, right by the chair.
Thank you.
Robert.
Just stand up on the chair. No.
Yeah.
All right, Jessica, thank you all for your willingness, before you begin, your willingness to present this evening.
Yes. Well, thank you for having us. So at the middle school with our academic and career plans, it's very similar to the same plan that we presented last year. So before we ended up going to the virtual learning, our 8th graders, they did a lot of the same things of learning about high school, preparing for their future classes. We got to go to Western Tech again. With how things are in the air right now, I'm not sure that's going to occur this year, but we're looking at some more virtual options then for them to learn kind of about different careers, different options like that. And then we still, though, during the closure, and I believe Jenny might talk about this, we still had some high school students talk through Zoom meetings with our 8th graders. So we really did try to keep that going. Though for middle school, the majority of our lessons do occur later in the year. And so with the closure, my guidance program took more of a focus on the mental health and well-being and coping skills with students at the end of that year. So hopefully this year we'll be able to get more back into the ACP planning of it, though I will again start the year focusing on the mental health of my students.
Thank you. Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you mind showing yourself?
Oh, well, okay. I would need to move. I'm not exactly in the cleanest room.
It's just, I was just thinking with the presentation that it's nice to see your face. So it doesn't have to, it's not a problem.
Okay, yes, sorry. If I present again, I will make sure I do that.
That's okay. All right. So Jessica, do you know anything that you're going to be doing differently starting the year? You said that this new academic year.
I'm probably focusing more on using, so with our academic and career plans, we had career cruising. And last year was the start. They kind of transformed it into Zello. And so I had kind of touched on that a little bit with our students, and they actually absolutely loved using that platform. It is much more student friendly, has more pictures, videos, easier to navigate. So I am very excited to use that with all grades because they have a scope and sequence for 6th through 8th. And that also gives the option too, with the 7th and 8th graders looking at doing halftime virtual learning, that they'll be able to engage in that on their own as well when they're at home. So I think that would be a greater focus for that, as well as, like I said, not being able to have some of those field trips with those hands-on experiences, looking more at doing career videos. So I'd actually been collecting them throughout the summer when they would be sent to me, where they can actually watch people in different careers and pathways and see kind of what it's like a day in the life, learn more about it that way. So trying to incorporate more of the virtual learning into their academic and career plans will be something a little different than this year than what I usually do, which is usually me in the classroom directly hands-on.
Thank you.
In the high school too, the majority of our overall plan is really the same, and our methods of delivery obviously are going to be changing. Last year we did use the Zello platform, and that allows students to do like she said, a scope and sequence of lessons depending on their grade level, and kind of the lessons that we pick and choose by, what we think they're in greatest need of. A lot of times it's, actually almost every year, we have students do an interest inventory to see what they're interested in because, from personal experience, probably many of us had career changes or idea changes, if nothing else. But to kind of give an overall feel of what those the lessons are that we can use the Zello platform for. Obviously, that will change a little bit as far as how we're going to deliver those lessons. In the past, we used resource, and we know that for now, at least, that won't be part of our school day. So Heidi and I will be using Google Classroom platform and using Screencastify and using the Google Classroom for the majority of it. And she'll talk a little bit about that when she gets on. But other than that, at the end, and I'm guessing, well, probably we, as everybody else did, we kind of just jumped into it, but we did finish the year out. And one of the, for me personally, one of the most fun lessons that I do is with the 8th graders. At the end of the year, I always ask a small group of seniors to come and be a guest in the 8th grade classroom. And it's so fun to listen to what those kids have to say. I always try to pick a cross section of kids, where they're headed in after high school. And it's just really interesting to see. And I think it's not things I don't feel like most of them would probably say in a regular class. They don't have the opportunity, but it's just not something that you normally talk about. But I think they appreciate having the audience of the 8th graders. And the 8th graders, obviously, I think, too, really enjoy that lesson. But so we'll be doing more of that virtually. We're planning on having, or I'm planning on having, the college reps communicate via Zoom with the students. They're, I think, a little bit slower this year, contacting me to set up those visits and dates and things like that, but that's probably okay as we all get our feet under us and get the school year started a little bit. But students will continue to have those same opportunities that they have in the past. So, yeah, pretty much everything, the majority of things will be Zoom or virtual, other than, obviously I do a lot of small group or individual meetings. Those will continue. The 10th grade academic and career planning, the ACP individual meetings with parents and students will continue in person or Zoom, whatever people are comfortable with. But we'll have to transition a little bit to the virtual format. Last year, at the end of the year, I did find a really good resource for virtual job shadows. It's out there. So, and some students did, and they had a nice cross section of different careers to shadow as well. So hopefully they'll continue putting those out. And then I'll let Heidi talk a little bit about Google Classroom.
So I had been using Google Classroom last year. I think it worked out really well that the kids came in at resource into my room. The continuity was there, I think, with all of the resources when they would come to my room versus them being in separate teachers' classrooms. So I found that really helpful. So I started using Google Classroom last year with them as kind of a platform to say, these are your lessons in Zello that you need to do. And then I also used the Google Classroom for the resources. So I made a resource page for them for Occupational Outlook Handbook, the My Next Move website that focuses on Wisconsin careers. And so they liked that. The lessons in Zello, it was nice because they could, work on them. And like Jessica said, it was a nice scope and sequence platform for them to know that they finished this lesson, then they had to do this lesson, and then they had to do that lesson. So try to get them to follow through with it as much as possible. But like I said, I think it was a little easier having them come to my room versus them being in individual classrooms with the other teachers. But for the most part, I think for this next school year, we'll kind of work that same way, have that same platform with Google Classroom and work with probably screencastify to present some of those lessons to them and post them on Classroom, and then go ahead and give them those assignments in Zello. So, any questions at all?
Are you finding the colleges, you said that they're behind, so are they having virtual tours? I know one of the things that students like when they're looking for higher ed is that person that gives them the tour of the university or the campus. Are they doing more of that, or are they still not at that place?
No, even last spring, they were all doing virtual tours.
Okay.
They've all got that down. I think I heard that UWL, I saw it on the news one night, they have a self-guided tour that you can do if you download an app on your phone. You can walk around and, gives you information about each of the buildings and things like that. But they're all going. I have heard of a couple of the smaller liberal arts that are willing to give tours again. But the big tours are not happening at this point.
Are students, if they don't have high enough speed internet at their home, are we permitting them to come in for some of the, for some of the work that they need to do?
I think, they can definitely, I don't know what the plan is. Tell me a little bit about it. Are we gonna have?
Yeah, it depends. It's a case by case basis. So, we've talked about that in different formats. We definitely need to, meet that need as far as, providing that resource. So yeah, we'll be working on that as far as the specifics. If they've got a meeting with, a college and they want, that support, I think that's also important to be able to offer that, regardless of the day, whether that's one of their school days for an A group kid or a B group kid. I don't think that should matter.
Yeah, I just know some of when you download some of those items, if you don't have enough bandwidth, it just doesn't work very well. It's all broken up and
Right.
doesn't flow.
Yeah. And colleges are making a number of accommodations for students. They're not wanting, obviously, to lose their student enrollment, and they're being more flexible with the admission requirements and making reporting ACTs or tests like that optional and different things. They're really doing whatever they can to try to retain the students that they have coming in.
So do any of you see anything that we could do as a board that would be more supportive of what you're trying to do in the job and career planning area?
I think one of the hardest things to find for students sometimes are people willing to do job shadows. Most people, if I called them up and asked them, or, if their company is big enough to have a process to do that, they're pretty willing to do it, but I don't know everybody in every job, So just kind of sharing the people that because most of them are pretty good about being willing to do a job shadow, but that's a pretty important investment in time. I always tell students, either it confirms, that is what you want to do or the area that you want to go into, or it's kind of like, I don't think so. And you didn't just waste a year or two or however many years heading in that direction. So I always encourage students to do job shadows.
Well, and in academic and career planning too, I thought I was going to be able to kind of get to that point where not necessarily require it, but make them do it. I have a whole packet that they can have, and it's everything from the script that they need to actually talk to the person, because if they don't know what to say or anything like that, but I have a whole packet for them. But yeah, unfortunately, because it's not a requirement, a lot of the kids from the experience that I had last year, just kind of, those that were interested were going to do it. Those that weren't, were not going to do it. So unfortunately, without that being a requirement, I'd love to require them all to do a job shadow at least once a year. But if it's not a requirement, they're not, there's some that aren't not going to do it.
We do have a number of larger employers in the area who are very willing to do job shadows. The hospital obviously has a nice sequential process to get theirs scheduled, but Vernon County Human Services is really good about following through and providing job shadows, and that hasn't always been as easy to do, but, you know, most people are pretty good and would schedule it, and they'll do that.
So at Western, we're expanding their apprenticeship program. I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not. And the new apprenticeship building is actually going to open in August, in a couple weeks. Just FYI, if there's students that have an interest in apprenticeship programs.
Is that on Ward Avenue or it's over by?
It's by train.
Mhm. Okay.
It was called the Weaver Building, and I don't know why, but it isn't any longer.
And that's funny you say that, Angie, because that was one of my, one of the main goals with Carl Perkins this year is try to get more kids interested in the apprenticeship program.
And I would definitely say in the last few years, that number has been increasing, for
Yeah.
sure. What you think, Heidi, but just overall, we have a lot more kids interested in apprenticeships or the trades.
Yeah.
Than in years past.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, thank you. Thank you all for your work. Thank you for trying to have our students as prepared as possible for their next phase of life, whatever that looks like. So we greatly appreciate all that you do for our students. So thank you. Enjoy your evening. It's beautiful outside. And
Thank you.
I see your face, Jessica.
I moved to a very nice, clean looking location, so.
She was probably outside.
I was in my car at a Zoom meeting before I came in here, so I get it.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Have a good- All right, the next item is, do we have any public comment?
No.
All right. Motion to approve the consent agenda, approve of public notice, approval of agenda, July minutes, and voucher summary 1 in the amount of $421,712.87 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Here, Robert, okay. Motion carries. Voucher summary 2. Motion to approve the voucher summary 2 in the amount of $239,719.64 as presented. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second, Amanda.
All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Aye. I think that carried. I did it. I didn't hear. Did you get everybody back?
I didn't hear Robert.
Robert?
I had an eye at about the same time Amanda did.
Okay. Thank you very
No,
much.
perfect.
Thank you. There are no donations over $250 this month, which is pretty unusual. We usually have quite a few donations, so we will skip that. Resignations. A motion to accept the resignations of Julia Buckingham, BAM's Children's House teacher, and Becky Knight, elementary cook manager, with thanks for their service to the district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Two wonderful, wonderful people, and they will be missed. I am sorry to see each of them going on to future careers and endeavors. They were wonderful in our district. So with that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 2020-2021 academic career plan. Is there a motion to approve the 2021 academic and career plan as presented? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. This was a handout. Is there any discussion? No. With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2020-2021 district goals. A motion to approve the 2020-2021 district goals. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion. So I have discussion. So if you go, after we left the night and we went through our goals, one thing that should be changed on here, which is Board of Education District Goals, item 1 and 2, there's just a typo. It says the board will make decisions based on, it should be on the, so that's just a switch. But under priorities, safety and wellness, I think that we should also have safety, wellness, and equity in there with everything that's been going on in our world. And I'm wondering if that's okay with everyone here this evening. And then the action would be that if we can have a speaker come in and speak to the board, staff, administrators on the topic of equity. There's some very good speakers out there. I don't know what that looks like as far as affordability. And I know we spoke to the topic of equity a little bit when we met, and it was somewhat covered under a different topic, but I still feel that word needs to be used, especially since of the poverty in our area, lack of high-speed internet in some people's homes, just trying to provide that high level of education no matter what the circumstances are of an individual.
I think that's a great idea. I'm not the least bit opposed to having some kind of speaker. I guess it will just depend on not only the finances, but the time to get somebody here and have staff and other people available.
Yeah, and we don't need to, necessarily, we can, the timing piece we can work out as we go forward. But I think it's there are many organizations offering great workshops, right now that I think we could look into and take advantage of.
On the board at Western, we had someone come in who spoke to the senior leadership team, leaders of faculty as well as the board, and the person was absolutely amazing and made you think in a depth that I hadn't possibly thought of before, as far as barriers that are presented that we're just unaware of. So if that's okay, do I need a?
Kim could revise her motion.
If Kim could revise her
I
motion.
will revise the motion adding equity into the third priority.
Okay. Is there and then what the action would also be, if.
And I would include the action to be that the administration should pursue a speaker on equity.
Perfect.
Not to put them in a tight hole, but to have them do something.
Thank you. Do I need a second for the amendment?
As long as Amanda's okay with the.
Yep, I'm good with the second on that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'd also like to thank the administrative team for meeting with us, taking your time to go through the board goals to make them hopefully as encompassing as needed to make this year successful. The next item is there a motion to approve the bid from Schultz Family Meats to purchase ground beef, 3.421 pounds, stew meat, $4.08 a pound, pork roast, 2.36 a pound for the 2021 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved. It's Robert.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It's actually Schultz.
Schultz? Okay,
Nope, that's fine.
thank you.
And last year we split the bid between both Paul Larson and Schultz Family Beef, and some changes in Paul's operations. He just felt that this time he wasn't sure exactly how he wanted to bid this and reflected in that. We were very happy with the meat we received from Schultz's. And, even we ended up using everything we did, even though we were closed, with using it through the summer food program. And last week, our food service staff was busy making hamburgers, individual patties for the next coming year, pattying them and freezing them, and getting ready for the next year. So we're very fortunate that we can 75 miles away, that is local beef, compared to what a lot of school districts are doing right now. So this is good.
So once again, I'm going to say thank you, because I think it's great that we try to use local meat for our students. And I also know that at this time, meat prices are elevating rather quickly, and a lot of the processing plants have closed or reduced their processing. So I think we're going to feel pretty good about this as meat prices continue to rise. So thank you for thinking of it, doing it ahead, making sure that we have good, highly nutritious food for our students. Any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 2020-21 student at-risk plan. Is there a motion to approve the 2020-2021 student at-risk plan?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Kathy, do you want to give us some information, any additional information?
Sure. So last year, again, this was based on last year's students, so I wasn't here. But the report before, there were 17 students that hit the criteria to be at risk. This year there are 16. Our testing, we needed to look at the testing from 18-19, not the 19-20, because we had no state testing last year. So that was a little bit different. We will continue to be monitoring these at-risk students as we go through in our student services meetings. All students, even the students that were at risk, graduated, that were planned to graduate this year. There were none that didn't make that. So I think that is a positive. There were no middle school students that hit dual criteria to make the at-risk plan, so I believe that was a positive. So we'll just keep moving ahead, even though I don't know how truly accurate, because the testing was old, but we will continue monitoring, and hopefully we have accurate testing and the ability to do it this year is our goal.
So can you not use, for example, STAR testing? Do you have to use the state?
You know what,
I know it's not apples to apples.
that's what we have done in the past, is continue to use the state. So then you're doing the same exact thing. STAR testing they weren't able to do STAR testing at the end of the year either. So,
I'm just wondering this year if it's going to be any different. And so,
right. So we may need to look at different tests to base that criteria on, but what we have used so far has been the standardized tests.
do you believe that the students, you weren't here, so the students that were at risk, were we able to give them the attention that they needed to be more successful?
Well, all of them, the ones that were eligible to graduate,
Right.
graduated this
Right.
year. I know that there are, everyone that's on the at-risk list this year has some sort of an accommodation of 504 and IEP. check-ins, those kinds of things. So from what I researched, they were all receiving support.
Great.
So I'm certainly hoping so. Again, a question came up, were they serviced through the summer? Again, our summer school was down. You know, we did less than we have in the past due to COVID, and parents sent them less than they had in the past. But even with that, a number of the students that were on the list either went to summer school, did the credit recovery at the high school, or their special ed teachers have reached out and already started them online so that they are jump starting into the fall.
Wonderful.
I'm hoping so. I can't honestly, give you that. Yes, I know that they are, but I know that we will continue to be working with that and looking at it for the future.
And looking at this and reading truancy, that was something that we had focused on as a goal in the past. And with COVID, everybody was truant. Nobody was here. I'm not saying they were all completely absent, but they certainly weren't here, and it makes that more of a variable.
Correct.
So, okay. Any other discussion? So thank you, Kathy. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
He said aye.
Oh, yeah.
Motion carried. The preliminary budget, a motion to approve the 2020-2021 preliminary budget as recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there a motion?
So
I'll make,
Amanda.
Amanda will second the motion. Mike?
Sure. I have a quick presentation. This meeting's going very well. I don't want to change that by any means. So Mr. Kress would not be happy if I didn't give my little PowerPoint presentation. No, we enjoy
I was gonna
it.
say it always goes well until we get to.
There was a quicker way to do this. I'm sorry. That's driving on two computers here. So we have the 2021 budget. And I've given you the budget for adoption and the budget for presentation as part of your board packet. And that is what will be presented in the broadcaster and then again at the annual meeting for presentation. And again, the budget process real quickly. We have, prior to the budget hearing, the school board must approve proposed budget presented at the budget hearing. That's what we're doing yet again tonight. You have approved them previously in the year, but now we've updated them again with some more knowns in an unknown year. But that's where we're at there. And then we have the budget hearing scheduled for the same night as the annual meeting as part of that on September 21st, 2020. And then we'll adopt a final budget in October by the statutory deadline. Just some highlights of the 2021 budget. As you can see, if you look at the estimated 1920, we did use some fund balance in the general fund. This budget is presented balanced with revenues and expenses equal to each other. There is an increase in both projected revenues and expenditures, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We talked more in the finance committee, but it's what was in the biennium budget through the last year, and as far as we have right now, nothing's been changed, and we're proceeding as such. Special education revenues and expenses have to be balanced, and they're budgeted at $2,574,000. And our debt service revenues and expenses, which the revenues are the property taxes levied for debt service, and the expenses are the principal and interest on old debt, and the schedules were set up to show a decrease in the 2021 school year, and that's reflected in this year's budget. District-wide revenues projecting $17,370,196 district-wide, $5,412,677 from property taxes, and $7,287,838 from state equalization aid. As a percentage, those numbers haven't really changed much. And if you look at a pie chart, you can definitely see, you know, the purple and the darker blue represents 73% of our overall budget in property taxes and state equalization aid. We are showing a projected increase in federal and or state aids due to the ESSER funding. We have built that into the budget based on our preliminary allocations. We're still awaiting some final numbers. Quite honestly, it has to do with the amount of money that's going to be go to the private schools with that. But we do have that budgeted now, and our other federal funds based on last year's allocation are anticipated to go up just a slight amount. Our overall revenue changes can, you know, that number was a bigger increase, and that's because of the revenue limit, the per pupil amount going up as part of the biennium budget. It was increased, and even with our, you know, a pretty conservative decrease in our enrollment projections, because we really don't know where we're going to be at come September, the third Friday in September. We're still showing an increase in the revenue limit, and we will be in the declining enrollment exemption amount or a hold harmless amount. But even with that, we are projecting an increase in our revenue limit. And again, this is anticipated, and even though it's counterintuitive to what, you know, you would think, it's due to the 3-year leveling out of your revenue changes or your enrollment changes, and how the biennium budget was approved last year. District-wide expenditure, salaries and benefits, $12,283,000 of the total of $17,490,000. As you can tell, again, when you look at a pie chart of this, 70% of our overall budget is in salaries and benefits. That's not going to change. That's the way that's going to be, and you know, we are in the people business, whether it be education or educating people takes people to do it. So I mean, that is always going to be our #1 expense. This budget is presented with an overall increase in salaries and benefits of 1.94%. The premium equivalency for health insurance charged to the district and the employee is calculated using a 0% increase in the amount used from last year. The actual renewal of our stop loss insurance and the related attachment point really came in what I would call flat. It was a slight increase, but overall, when you're looking at a total budget, it's in the thousands range, and just not a significant. So we're going to hold the rates that we charge ourselves and the employees at an equal amount. Teacher salary schedule is still being prepared, and we're still going to, use a step and lane system as we have. No full-time teacher will receive less than 2% of last year's contract. Our base teaching salary would increase to $39,250, and our top would increase to $63,499. Support staff and bus driver increase based on a 2% increase respectively in hourly rates, keeping the step systems in place, and administrative and non-representative staff increasing on a 2% increase of last year's contract. And on a mill rate perspective, starting with DeSoto, Kickapoo, North Crawford, Westby, La Crosse, West Salem, Lafarge, Bangor, Cashin, and Sparta. As you can see, and I'm not going to call them all out, but I mean, our mill rate last year, and this is, I don't have what the other districts are going to do, and just like they don't have mine. I mean, they could ask me, but it could change every time, in the next, until that levy's certified. These numbers will fluctuate up and down a little bit. But if you look at the 1920 mill rate, ours was $8.73, the last blue line on the right. Lower than us were Kickapoo and North Crawford, $8.21 and $7.92. And the highest in our area was Westby and La Crosse at $10.68 and $11.02. We are projecting, using last year's valuations, a slight increase in the mill rate. And the overall tax dollars, that's what that's reflected of, that, are projected to increase. But at 887, we're still very comparable and favorable to neighboring school districts and where they're at. I have no idea where other districts are looking and how theirs will fall in. One of the things that is helping hold ours down a little bit is, even though we are seeing an increase in our revenue limit, we as a district made the decision to use some fund balance in the last year, both through health insurance and increasing some spending on some capital projects instead of deferring them out any further. In particular, the window project at the elementary school, that increases our aidable costs by spending more than we had planned, and therefore increases our equalization aid, which through the revenue formula then drives down your property taxes a little bit. So, it would have been, if we would have added a couple $100,000 to our fund balance last year, this would look a lot differently. Our tax rate would go up because our equalization aid would have went down. So, I think the board did a good job of kind of anticipating. And again, this 887 does figure the additional 200,000 referendum approved revenue limit from 350 that was in last year's budget to the 550 in this year's. So even at that, the tax rate stayed about level. Any questions?
No questions? With that, all in favor, vote by, thank you, Mike. And we should also note that it'll change. It'll change. Okay, just so everybody's aware of that. With that, all in favor of the preliminary budget is presented, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Mike. The next item, is there anyone that believes we need a closed session for staff compensation discussion?
I don't think so.
No? Anyone? All right, with that, we will skip that item I. And we will go to policy updates.
Well,
Oh,
no,
still need to-
I was skipping the closed
We're
session,
skipping the
but we
closed
still have to
session.
have that action.
you still have to take action.
Oh, it says a closed session is needed.
And then,
If
yeah, we
needed.
need to open
Open. Motion. Oh.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the 2020-2021 staff compensation, including support staff, professional staff, administrator, supervisor, and other non-represented staff? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Policy. Is there a motion to approve the policies listed on the agenda as recommended by the policy committee? Is there a motion?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I can talk a little bit about a couple of things. Primarily, most of the you see everything in here is going to be updates. There are a couple of new things this year, and we'll find those. One of it's going to be a Title IX sexual harassment policy. That's probably the biggest one. I think administration has went through some training on that. Yep. We'll say yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Paul? Yes.
And I think the intent is to keep this policy separate from the rest of the policies as well. No? Okay. So we can take a look at that. Primarily, it's training for sexual harassment for staff and with students and staff with staff. And then you have the district and school report card. And that one is an update to Title I, I believe, if my memory is serving me correctly. And then leaves of absence for the superintendent, a couple of changes there. And then the rest of the updates primarily are just some key things that are going to be in the district's favor. Some of them are required. Most of them are recommended. I believe we said we would go ahead with the recommendation on the recommended policies. Beth, I think there was one with the payroll deductions, correct? Policy 6520 that has to deal with HRAs and HSAs.
That one actually is not.
It's not
communicated.
What's that?
It didn't apply.
It's not listed.
Right, right, exactly. So I saw it on the list there, so just want to make sure that that was being left out or not. So, other than that, I think that's it. So,
So when I was reading through these, I know that we forward these to all of our staff once they're approved, but there are some significant changes in policy. For example, if someone, an employee does something outside of the school district, alcohol, drug related, that can then be brought forward. For example, somebody posts something on Facebook, an employee, and it's not at work. So I saw some changes that I didn't see there before. Becky's looking at me. Nope. So I know these are all sent out, but is there going to be some type of a Zoom so that everyone is fully aware of some of these policy changes?
We can do that. The changes, the vast majority of the changes are law changes or recommendations for changes from Neola that were to get, to closer reflect the legal language. So we'll have a conversation with that back at back to school in service, especially around the Title IX changes there. That is a big one that we will definitely talk about. So we can definitely we can do that. We can send these out, and then if there are any questions, we can definitely address those.
Even the video surveillance, so that's very different in my view anyway of what it was before. So just making sure that people are aware of that, and then trying to remember which one it was I sent you where it discusses mandatory course offerings. And I'm looking through here and I don't remember now which one it was, but I was wanting to know if that could be perhaps added to our calendar for updates. It talked about foreign language and course, it actually talked about physical education, which I had a question because during COVID, if that's a requirement, that's in our policy, how are we addressing some of these things? So maybe if perhaps during the November meeting or something, there could be an update on those mandatory courses, because it's more specific now when I read it anyway than what it was in the past, to see how our district is addressing
Absolutely.
topics. I don't know if anybody else saw that or not, or thought anything of it. So you guys are busy.
Yeah, there are just a few to go through, guys.
Yeah.
Just a few.
Let me go back here. Any other discussion on the policy changes? Neola does a very good job, as always. And we will, in this motion, we will be approving those that are legally mandated. And then some of them will be, these are just first readings.
Actually, they're all.
We're gonna all, these are all voted on.
Okay, all right. So with that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. District Administrator, back to school update. It looks like John is going to speak to this topic.
No.
It's just in the wrong
It's
spot.
just, no, it's just part of his report.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Back to school 2021 school calendar.
Yep.
Who wants to speak to that?
Well, we can go with the back to school update. So over the past week since we last met, quite a few things have happened, including the survey going out to parents for the enrollment survey. Results that it did close last evening. We did have received quite a few today as we're piling in. So we don't have a true accurate, an accurate representation right now to share with you. Admin will sit down as we go. We did meet today to talk where their preliminary numbers were coming in. I would say no surprises. Nothing crazy right now that really is way out in left field for our numbers. Fairly accurate to the previous survey that went out in July. So with that being said, now the conversation shifts as it did with us to staffing, specifically at the elementary levels, where we are going to be meeting the virtual needs through our VAS staff. So it'll be fun. I think we've got a pretty decent plan in place now for that. We also had town hall meetings. We had 2 district town hall meetings that both went about an hour and a half on Tuesday night and on Wednesday afternoon. Both, I thought, very well attended with over, I don't know what we finished with, 160 in the first one, and then just under 100 in the second one. Then we transitioned on Thursday evening with 3 back-to-back-to-back town hall meetings. So thank you, administrators. When we look at last week for this crew, there were many 12+ hour days. So I thank you guys for everything throughout this entire time, but specifically last week was an intense one, but it was good. I think we have had far more positive feedback than we have negative over the town halls. And I think it was really a great platform for our parents and community members to offer some questions and feedback on that. So we are looking to continue gathering that feedback and continuing that planning process. We're finalizing what in-service is going to look like. It seems like every day the state likes to add different things that we have to do right now. I'm sure no one else is feeling that. But anyway, so things that we have to cover: Title IX training, some COVID symptom recognition pieces. We have to cover how to put official covering on and how to wear it properly. And so, I mean, things that you just never had to do before are now part of our staff in service. With that being said, we also understand that this year, probably more than ever, teachers are going to be wanting to spend time getting their classrooms ready. And teachers every year want as much time as possible to get their classrooms ready. But their classrooms will look different this year in a way that they're not even used to. And so that will be a priority, as well as allowing time for collaboration and logistical problem solving that, for questions that are going to come up that we don't even know right now that are questions. And so truly giving them that time is going to be a priority as well. We will also have some training from an outside source for proper cleaning procedures and protocols and what the expectation of the different levels of staff are. So it's going to be great, but it's going to be an interesting back to school. We're not going to have that big, you rah, let's get everybody in one room and get them all fired up. We'll have those, but just in smaller versions and smaller settings. And so we are looking forward to welcoming new staff later this week, and then for our staff in service next week. So we're still soliciting feedback as we go for different resources that teachers need, and we're trying to do our best to make sure that everybody is as comfortable as possible in this uncomfortable situation. So again, I'm very happy with where we are. We've got a lot of work to do that won't stop September 1st. This is going to be an ongoing process. Our next steps shift to this M word that everybody keeps talking about, which is metrics. And so that's how do we determine when we need to shift either to a more conservative strategy medically, or loosen some of those restrictions. When do we get to go into the green or whatever we want to, whatever you want to, call that? When do we go back to as close to normal as possible? And so really defining those. We continue to work with the county. I do believe, we're going to be trying to put something out as soon as possible, and whether that's directly from the county or if that's us with, seeking some guidance. I think we're at that point where we're ready to put something out there that we believe is the best position right now, and then we'll adjust as we receive more guidance. But we do need some solid numbers right now. And then also, metrics for closures potentially due to COVID cases, positive COVID cases. And so we're working through that process in a very similar fashion. So I feel like I summed up a week in as short amount of time as I can with how much it was actually accomplished last week, which was a ton. So anything that I missed, administrators? Okay. Any questions on that? I mean, it's a process.
A question I have is this survey that went out. When do you think you might be able to compile that information to share?
Well, we are compiling, I would say. We still have a pocket, and we do have a couple of teaching staff that actually was helping make calls, to parents that hadn't responded yet. So we'll be able to give you as up to date as possible. We are offering a 2-week window to families if they try one of the options and it just isn't working out. So an example could be, you're choosing a virtual option and you have multiple students at home. Your internet just isn't handling that. We would allow them to come on back, and vice versa. If we have potentially, close COVID positive, where now a parent wants to keep their kids home and want to go to the virtual option, we're going to allow that. So again, we won't have concrete numbers probably right up until that day. So after talking with a local school that has started school already, they have seen a shift, not in the overall number, it's very similar, but they had multiple families those first 2 or 3 days crossing back over to the opposite in both directions. So we do anticipate changes all the way through.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, exactly.
My most favorite thing these days. So I know that there are other board members actually attended as well, the town hall, and all of the administrators, and you all did just a fantastic job. I feel very fortunate to be in this district. It's a very caring group of people who are trying to think of all of the different scenarios and work through those scenarios. And I appreciate as well as respect everything that you're doing right now. And I thought the questions were very good. I thought you were all amazingly patient and answered as well as you could. Many times there just wasn't an answer. And I don't know what kind of frustration there is with parents with that, but I hope that they understand that you can't make a decision on transportation without knowing how many people you're going to be transporting. And I don't know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. And so, I get the frustration, but it really was wonderful that you took the time to do it, and it was done very well. And so thank you for that. Beth and Mike, obviously, all of the planning and preparation. Mike was in on John's for a little bit there, trying to assist with some Zooming. And so thank you for all of the time that you're spending as well. Any other?
Nope, just it truly has been a team effort all across, and I appreciate everybody that is helping out. So transitioning to 2020-2021 school calendar, we'll be bringing this back to you guys whenever we do meet here again. What the discussion that we're having right now is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not calling this a fair day, which is quite awesome actually in a school district to have that, because it shows how important that day is for us. I do feel there are, the intention of that day was to allow people to go to the fair, and then we were going to have an in-service the following Monday. We're discussing that as a district leadership team, just because is that the best use of our time right now? The day for Monday, and teachers jump in if I'm misspeaking here, was intended to kind of go through that first groupings for RTI purposes. After we have done a diagnostic, and again, I'm not sure if we're really going to be at that point in time. So we'll be bringing back a recommendation for the board, but I wanted to get you an update just to kind of be thinking about that. That hey, we're going to be bringing back some plan for how that calendar would be adjusted.
Can I say something in there quick?
Sure.
So one thing that I was thinking about is, can we use those days as, like, for instance, for the K through 6 especially, as virtual days, so that if we need to move to a virtual at some point, we could get a kind of a taste of virtual, both from teachers and for students or families, of what virtual could be like in those grade periods, whether it's Monday, like Friday, the teachers have to prepare it for Monday. Just some thoughts there, that a way that we could look at it.
Yeah, I think that I don't think that we have any, decision that's made at this point. Otherwise, we would have, presented that to you. So yeah, we can definitely discuss that, Amanda, and see where the teachers feel if that's going to offer us the benefit. So again, definitely we will consider it.
All right. Do you want to continue then with, so the board, we're going to have to come up with a date. Beth, are you going to send out possibilities, and if everybody could respond as quickly as possible so we can move forward with that? I know that some people actually are going on camping trips and some things like that. So the sooner the better for that next meeting. And the next item, summer school update, Pat?
Up there. I don't mean to on stage or in front of I
have to say, all that cowboy stuff in your office was a little alarming.
It just shines, doesn't it? It just sounds like a winner or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
This year.
This is mediation now.
So summer school, we ran July 20th through August 7th, which already seems like a long time ago that we finished it. But I think, coming in as a new team, again, I'll echo what Tom said. It wasn't just, well, you're the summer school coordinator, figure it out and go. It was really all the administrators helped come up again with a concept, and working to get staffing. And then once we had staffing, we had this concept. But again, we didn't have every single detail laid out. We had a framework, as far as our guidance from the health department and other things, as far as face coverings and distancing and class sizes. And we looked at recess, all these things we looked at and we're continuing to look at for the school year. We didn't have every single detail until we got to staff. And again, then the staff is just, incredible that they can come in. It's something when kids come in, it all works, which is amazing. And that's a tribute to the staff. And, could we try this? Could we do this? What about this? It's really a team effort all the way through from, it's not me telling them exactly what to do. It's their input, which is so important to figure everything out, because there's so many details that we're just not used to. I think the main positive was there were no major glitches or hiccups or problems, that we all kind of held our breath, because this was new and it was kind of taking a chance. But just a credit to everybody as figuring out, and even as we were in summer school, things change from we're gonna strongly recommend face coverings too. Now we're gonna switch in the last week, they're mandatory. You know, so as we go, we're figuring out things that change. So it's been really good. You know, it was a smaller group and it was only half a day compared to normal, but things went really well. We had 100 counting, and then this week, I should add that this week, it's counting into the summer school as our pre-K jumpstart. So we've got, what do we have here? 12 students today and tomorrow, and then 9 students Wednesday and Thursday to get those students ready for pre-K. But the other part of summer school, we had 120, well, including the jumpstart, we had 122 students enrolled. Now, not every day we had a total of 122. Some were absent or sick, and parents, that was another positive too, that parents, if there was hey, my kid woke up with a sore throat or any kind of symptom, they were really good about keeping them home, communicating with us about when can they come back and those things. So, you know, we had various numbers from kids that were pre-K last year going into kindergarten this year, up to high school, some credit recovery and orchestra students. So it was just a really positive experience. I think it for my anxiety to get going with kids again was reduced, and I think the staff would say the same, that there's some anxiety of coming back. But I think for me the best part about that was we haven't seen kids or haven't worked with staff in 4 months. And that first day when parents are dropping off kids and the staff are greeting them, and it's like, yeah, this is what we do. And we've got masks and we're being as safe as possible, but it was pretty special to work with kids again, even in the small numbers. So I think that really set the stage for this year, hopefully. Questions on anything on how summer school went, or issues that you may have heard of that I didn't? I like to think I hear everything, but I'm sure I don't.
I heard good things.
Good.
Yeah, just a thanks from a parent perspective. It was to the staff and everyone involved. Went off without a hitch, and my guy wanted full days for the rest of the summer. So it was a great experience.
That's cool. That's what we like to hear. That's awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for all the planning.
Yep. Thanks.
The next topic is AP exam results. Jason?
Like I have to come up now.
You do.
Yes, you do.
He started the trend, for
You
sure.
can't hide back there.
Thank you, Pat, for that. And I'd also like to point out to Pat that, unlike Angie, I'm less concerned about the Cowboys thing. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the life of an elementary kid, I think the Cowboys have only beat the Packers once.
Not when I was a kid.
No, I'm talking your elementary students,
Oh.
so they may more ask who the Cowboys are than anything competitive wise. Because they didn't have to live through the 90s like some of us. So.
Yeah.
First, before I get to AP results, I would share Western contacted, which is along the same lines. So transcripted credit wise, this last school year, we had 48 high school students earn a total of 156 transcripted credits through Western, which was a total savings of almost $22,000 for a family. So I thought that was something great to share dealing with our transcripted credits. So AP testing. So AP testing looked different this year. Most of the kids that took AP testing did it in the confines of their own house. It was a shorter test. There's still a lot of questions in a short period of time, but our students did really well on it. So to give you some comparison, so this last school year, so in 1920, we had 39 students in the high school pass a total of 56 advanced placement exams. If you compare that to the previous year, we had 30 students that passed 45. So we had 9 more students pass exams and 11 more exams passed. So students' average was higher than the state average in comparative government, environmental science, psychology, statistics, and US history. And most of our kids took, if you look at break it down percentage-wise, our English language and composition, environmental science, psychology and US history are our most popular options last year, making up over 70% of our total options. So great news in the midst of a pandemic that the kids were still able to earn college credits and actually be more successful than the previous year. Even though the test was not easier, the AP's goal, or College Board, who governs AP, their goal was to try to basically make their numbers even out as far as student success rate compared to previous years. So the fact our kids did as well as they did is a definite compliment to our students that took those tests. So.
And the teachers.
And the teachers, definitely. You don't get there without that, and can't imagine there's too much more stressful than trying to get kids ready for an AP type of exam. And AP was great as far as adapting, and like I said, going the online option, doing numerous dates, helping out with technology, making it so that students can have a good shot at doing it at least. So, any questions for the group?
Any different planning for this year for AP?
Yeah, we'd love to not have a pandemic in the spring, if that's what you're saying.
That'd be nice.
You know, I think it was great that the College Board, which governs AP, like I said, they did a very nice job transitioning in the middle of that. You think most AP exams are meant to start early May, so I mean they were doing quickly with that. So it's and the nice thing is they put out numerous sites and connections that kids could connect and practice for. So yeah, I think we'll kind of take it as is. Schedule we're running the same as we normally would, because I think the hope is always to have as normal a year as we can. So. Any questions? Pat, you got anything for me or no? Are you checking my facts?
Yes.
Are you?
I think you're pretty accurate.
Thank you, Jason.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Can we make Mike stand up too?
Oh, yeah, Mike has to stand
I
up.
thought I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna drive.
Well, before we go to Mike, I know John, not to put you on the spot, if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine as well. You did forward a report. Did you want to speak to that or no? Perfect. Thank you very much. You just don't want to stand in front. All right, Mike.
Food service meal program update. The actual final number, 157,736 meals served from, as we said before, the first day that we were closed officially.
Say that again.
157,736 total meals.
And how many twice a day? Like
That is the twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the twice a day. Yeah. So,
So including breakfast and
yeah, that includes the breakfast and lunch. Just an amazing number. We were able to just, give them a little small recognition. Got them some ice cream and some Culver's was very generous and donated the custard for us, and then a small gift certificate from Papa's Barbecue on the north side up there. It's hard to throw a party for food service workers who have been working all morning on the food, and you say, hey, we're bringing you lunch, and they're like, thanks. I'm really hungry, so we thought that would be nice to be able to take with them and use when, with their family or however they so chose. And it was amazing. I mean, we got a nice picture for the social media and everything, and they should be really proud. I do think we learned a lot of lessons that will help us this fall. The summer food program is ending, and we're transitioning back to the National School Lunch Program. So virtual students, I know it was discussed at in the different town halls. Can we get volunteers to deliver meals? And logistically, there is some challenges that we do have, but the number one thing that we need to have other people understand is that while everybody qualified for, if you were 18 and under and lived in the district, you qualified for a paid meal. Now it goes back to our regular rules for free and reduced and full paid amounts. We haven't determined yet, and we're still working through how we're going to make sure we have access to food for the families that need that. That's something that Christy takes very seriously, and it was the first question when we were talking about the AB days and stuff. It was, okay, but what about the kids when they're not here? How are we gonna get them food? And what are we going to do? And I say, Christy, we've gotta, you know, we're going to work through that, but, you know, we do have limitations. I mean, we don't have the bus drivers because, you know, of the way the day is gonna work. And her kitchen staff is gonna have to be shifted in a different direction. But we did learn a lot as far as how, you know, I mean, whether it be serving in the classrooms or an alternative position, we do know the cafeteria is going to look different. We're not going to be going through the buffet line or however you want to look at that, the salad bar or whatever, and we're gonna have to have more prepackaged. By prepackaged, I mean meals already set up for the students, not prepackaged meals, but I mean the meals set up for the students. And, you know, the logistics of keeping that hot and safe and appetizing and everything. I think we learned a lot through the summer program, even though those were going out into coolers and stuff. I think that the individualized packaging of the meals, I think we learned a lot. So, and that's good. Yes, more to come on the food service program as we go forward.
Well, there'll be some expenses there too, just because of packaging. I mean, packaging is very expensive, so that's going to increase our costs.
We're fortunate that our food service fund had operated at a surplus for a number of years. I just, you know, this is not a business model that would be sustainable. I mean, and that's what happens in a pandemic. You know, I mean, you revert to get the job done. The summer food service program, that did do well for the district. I mean, the reimbursement rates and our high participation really helped us with that because there are a certain level of fixed costs that go into those things, and the incremental cost of adding 5 more students, you know, the revenues offset that so much. So that side of it, you know, we're financially fine. We definitely wouldn't want to have, you know, figure this out for the next 5 years. Let's put it that way. I think we're going to be fine for the next year, but it will cause us some challenges. Summer maintenance projects, do you want me to
just keep right on going, you're on a roll.
The summer maintenance projects, they have completed the project, the window project, which was our biggest project. That actually came in, you know, that was over $300,000 total project when you took the 2 projects together. The windows and then the ceiling and the cleaning and everything else that we agreed to do, which I'm really glad we did. I mean, it would have been crazy not to after seeing how good it looks. But all that being said, and even after we had a couple of windows reflashed at the high school that since the remodel have always allowed water to come in, we had the planter removed, and I don't know if you saw out there on your way in tonight, but they put the concrete down and it just looks normal. I mean, it looks like it was always that way. It was really nice. Even with all of that, we still came in about 35,000 under. So it's been final build now, and so we're very happy with that. I think Martin Johnson was very good for us to work with, and as far as summer projects go, you know, nobody wanted COVID. I mean, to come through. But for a project like that, it actually was good. We had that ready to go, and it worked out. Just pure luck or circumstance, however you want to look at it. But it really was the best, you know, as far as disruption. You know, it was at a minimal, and that along with a couple of the other projects that we did. The maintenance crews are, as they always are, at the end of the summer, scrambling. It's just we keep changing their game. You know, I mean, they were ready to start on something before, and we're like, you know, we don't know if kids are coming back. Okay, so they wait, and then it was like, well, the teachers still need to get out of their rooms. We can't start. Okay, so they kept shifting and everything, and now they're going, just hard to get us ready for September 1st. Supplies are a problem right now, and it's not just us, it's across, the nation. Whether you call it PPE, but I mean, things like gloves but I mean, even dispensers of hand sanitizer and everything. And we're meeting very regularly with our suppliers to make sure that we're going to be ready, with a plan. It may not be what it looks like 2 weeks after that, but it will be an appropriate plan to accommodate where we're at on that. We're going to be having some maintenance training along with the regular staff next week during and our actual Hilliard rep will be in at those trainings to answer some of the staff's questions. That's why we're in here tonight, because they were ready to do some of the library stuff, and then we decided to do the bookshelves, and that was great. They got all that done, and now they're ready to shampoo. But then we started into a Chromebook conversion process, and we had to struggle. And they've been very patient, and that they, along with the food service workers, I mean, they really never settle, and they need a lot of credit and thanks and appreciation. And come the September 1st, their world will be changing for a while too. We're going to be asking them to do different things than what they would normally like to do and get to do, because it's what's best for the whole organization. So summer maintenance, that's where we're at there. And
how about the ionization?
It's ordered. I mean, it's the parts haven't come in yet. We'll keep you posted as to how that goes. Technology update. Technology, as we identified back in the spring, our families have different, varying amounts of technology in their houses, and our district did too. We were not a one-to-one school district, and honestly, I think we were comfortable with that. We felt being more mobile with our technology was more affordable for us and more practical. Going through last spring and some of the challenges that we found in understanding, that, for a staff member to be living in both worlds when their students don't have reliable access really kind of shifted our mindset on where we were at. And we have put in, we've received over 200 Chromebooks that we ordered late last spring. And we have received those, and they're in the process, but those were planned and needed to replace, I guess you would say, a lot of machines that were end of life, and by keeping them going, expose us to vulnerabilities where they're subject to allowing viruses to come in, if I understand right from Mr. Zilke. So we did place another order of 500 Chromebooks, which would, in theory and in reality, while we would not assign a Chromebook to a child or to a student, we would have one available for every student. And that may be kept in the teacher's classroom, and that's, where it'll be, whatever. Or in an instance where we need to shift to a virtual, they would have that available at that time. That being said, those are super back ordered, and our original was, hopefully we'll get it, early in September. Now I think that's most recent is October to November, and it's it's where we're at. I mean, it's we can be upset about it. We've looked at Amazon's, and it's funny because people can find these things. Well, I find Chromebooks, they say they got plenty, and then you go and you actually go to do the order, and it'll say limit of 10, or it'll say, or it'll say estimated ship date October 15th. I mean, it's no better. I mean, it's just until you get to that point, and that's the way it's been for nitrile gloves and a lot of the different things that we're trying to find as we go. You can buy one or two here and there, and that's what we've done, but I mean, to do the big 500 orders, it's hard, but, we are using semester funds or some CARES Act funding to improve our technology, and I think it's the right thing to do. Connectivity, we're working with Vernon Communications, we're working with US Cellular, Verizon, if that seems to work better. The problem is there's no one answer. Vernon Communications, while their coverage area is great in our area, they don't go everywhere that our school district goes. Just like US Cellular doesn't reach in some of the valleys and stuff like that, so a hotspot's not an option. And we're working through trying to figure out how that goes and how to equitably make sure that our students, and sometimes it becomes a one-on-one problem solving. So that's a technology update.
So we're gonna be one-to-one, that's what you're telling us?
I don't know how to define it, Angie. I mean, I really don't.
Every child can have it.
Every kid will have access to a device.
Yes.
There
can
we
say
go.
that, yes.
That's what I'm asking for.
And what that looks like in 3 years, that'll be a decision for,
Yeah.
because I mean, then you have to keep on that, otherwise everybody ends up with a 7-year-old machine. And so, I mean, it's a commitment once you make that.
That's what I was asking.
Yep.
So do you contact the Chromebook directly? And
It's actually, I mean, there are certified vendors.
Sure.
Because there's licensing issues with the Chrome
Right.
educational software and stuff. And yes, Pat and I have been on with our sales rep. And I mean, DAWs, 500 Chromebooks, holy cow, that's a huge purchase order. It's a huge order. Just think of what the La Crosse
them,
School
it's-
District.
Right.
I mean, it's 4 times that. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's, they're just trying to fill orders.
Interesting. Any other questions? All right, board report, legislative update. You spoke to our assembly person.
Yep.
But it doesn't sound like anything is going to change or take place
Yeah.
until after the election.
Yeah, that's the overwhelming message, is not to expect anything until after the election, which really is helpful for us. That's sarcasm, if you're not reading that in the subtext there.
Well, it could be.
What's
That
that?
could be helpful to us. I mean, it depends on what comes out after.
Correct, but as far as further guidance or clarity on some of the questions that we have, especially related to statutory regulations that we have to follow, that we're really trying to follow, but are very difficult to do so. So we're working on it, but I think Representative Oldenburg was very understanding, listened. I think he really truly did understand what we were talking about, which is not always the case with some representatives. But again, we'll keep you informed if we hear any changes with that.
That they're not meeting.
That is.
And that's what I wanted to share, is that they're just not meeting right now, so there isn't much going on there. The board workshop, thank you all for attending and giving your time and your ideas. I appreciate that. I think that we're going to have a very interesting year, and I think that the board's assistance with the goals and all of that was productive. The CISA 4 annual meeting, I'm guessing that will be via Zoom.
That already was. I attended.
Oh, that already was.
Yep. Yeah, August 5th, we had that meeting. It was directly following one of our board meetings. I did attend via Zoom. They did have it in person as an option as well. I had multiple meetings that night, so the Zoom helped me out. Primarily, Kay Henriksen, the CISA 4 Digital Leadership and Learning Director, presented information on what districts and what options are from just a distribution of education standpoint. And it pretty much was essentially what we're talking about and what we're doing. So there's multiple avenues, what you could be doing. And pretty much made her and her team available if any districts had any questions, anything like that in regards to just either electronic interface or virtual learning and how that's going to look. And then there were, it was a pretty short meeting. I think all told it was about 20 minutes. And that included, there were 3 board member seats that were up for re-election. It was La Crosse, Buffalo, Trumbull, and Monroe counties. Everyone who was on the board retained their seat on that. And then it was quick. It was, we didn't even break out. There were no breakout sessions because of Zoom, things like that. And then the meeting adjourned.
Something that the board will think about for the future is, we typically have the January Board of Education meeting. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know. I know I wouldn't actually physically attend a meeting like that today. So that's something that you all might want to think about a little bit, and I don't even know how they're going to hold it at this point. We also stereotypically have a meeting usually in September, and it's all of the schools in our area, and there's a meal.
There are some dates for that, aren't there? Oh,
Yeah, do it virtually.
But that's virtual.
yeah. Do you know what our date is?
Off the top of my head.
No,
I saw the dates, but
saw
I
it.
didn't know what area we were in, so I couldn't.
Right. So that's something else.
Yeah,
That's,
sure.
we don't need that right now, but that's
October
something that
6th.
helps to think of if that's something that you're wanting to participate in. Obviously, it will also be very different than what it has been in the past, because it's been nice to go to the school. There's a meal. They usually have some very good speakers. You get to see some things that they're doing in the school district, like last year, Black River Falls, with what they're doing with their indigenous population. It was actually quite wonderful. So that will be different. So just kind of keeping those things in the back of your mind as that sends things out if you're wanting to attend or not. And with that, anything else? It is 8:34. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for those that came this evening also to listen. Thank you to anyone who joined through Zoom. Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, everyone have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.